She twisted the key in my lock like she owned the place, muttering under her breath, "This is HOA property now." I was standing just a few feet away, hidden by the hallway shadows, watching her entitlement drip off every move. She pushed the door open and stepped inside like a queen walking into her palace. That's when she pulled out her phone, dialed 911 and shouted, "Yes, I've caught an intruder living illegally. Send officers right now." My fists clenched, but I didn't move. I wanted her to hang herself with her own arrogance. The sound of boots on the wooden floor made her spin, expecting backup. Instead, she froze. My wife stepped out of the kitchen, her badge gleaming on her chest, full police uniform sharp as steel. Karen's phone nearly slipped from her hand. My wife looked her dead in the eye and said, "Funny, you just called the cops." "Well, here I am." Karen's face drained of color, but she tried to recover with that same fake authority. You can't be here either. This property belongs to the HOA, and I'll have you both arrested." Her voice cracked halfway through the sentence, but she still raised her chin like she was untouchable. My wife didn't even flinch. She slowly reached for the body cam clipped to her vest, pressed the button, and the red light blinked alive. "Good," she said calmly. "Then everything you say from now on will be recorded." Karen stuttered, looking at the tiny light as if it were a laser pointed at her lies. She tried to back toward the door, but I stepped into view, blocking her way out. "Wait, you called the cops, remember?" I said quietly. "Don't you want to wait for them to show up?" The silence that followed was heavier than any words. Karen's hand shook as she held her phone, pretending to dial again, but my wife leaned in and whispered, "You're in more trouble than you think." Karen's fake confidence snapped. She jabbed her finger toward me, yelling into the phone, "Yes, the trespasser is threatening me right now. Send backup immediately." But the way her eyes darted to my wife's badge told the truth. She was panicking. My wife crossed her arms, voice steady as stone. "Dispatch, this is Officer Ramirez, badge 5472. I'm on scene. Suspect impersonating HOA authority. Confirm if units are actually en route." Karen's mouth fell open. The silence from the other end of her call was deafening because she hadn't called 911 at all. She had dialed some private number, a so-called security team. My wife tilted her head, waiting. "So who exactly did you just call?" she asked. Karen swallowed hard, trying to hide the phone behind her back, but it was too late. I leaned forward and said, "You brought in fake cops, didn't you?" Karen's grip on the phone slipped, and the screen lit up just enough for us to see the caller ID. HOA Enforcement Unit. My wife smirked, her voice cutting like a blade. "That's not law enforcement. That's a private number." Karen tried to spin it fast. No, they're authorized. They work with us." But even she didn't sound convinced. Almost on cue, headlights swept across the driveway outside. Heavy boots pounded the porch, and two bulky men in black jackets barged through the doorway without knocking. One of them barked, "Ma'am, step aside. We'll handle this squatter." Karen lit up with relief, pointing straight at me. "That's him! Arrest him now!" But instead of me backing away, my wife stepped right between us, hand resting on her holstered gun. Her voice thundered through the room. "Touch him, and you'll be in cuffs before you can blink." The men froze, realizing too late they weren't facing some helpless homeowner.
The two men hesitated, glancing at each other, then at Karen. She snapped, "What are you waiting for? Do your job!" But my wife had already pulled her badge into the light, holding it high. "NYPD, you lay one hand on my husband and you'll both be charged with assaulting a federal witness." The room went still. Even I was caught off guard. She hadn't told me that part yet. Karen's jaw dropped. "Witness? What witness?" My wife turned her sharp gaze on her. "Funny you should ask. We've been collecting evidence on this fake HOA for months. You just walked into the trap." The men's faces shifted from tough to terrified, their confidence melting away. Karen's voice shook as she tried to laugh it off. "You're bluffing. She's bluffing." But her hands trembled so badly that the phone finally slipped, clattering to the floor. One of the men slowly raised his hands, backing toward the door. We didn't sign up for this," he muttered, eyes flicking to my wife's badge. The other tried to stand his ground, but sweat ran down his temple. Karen lunged at him, hissing, "Don't you dare run! You're supposed to protect me!" But before he could answer, red and blue lights flashed through the window. Real police cars screeched to a halt outside, doors slamming, radios crackling. Karen froze, caught between the fake enforcer she called and the actual cops arriving. My wife lowered her voice, almost like she was savoring the moment. Perfect timing. Now let's see how you explain this. The front door burst open and uniformed officers flooded in, weapons drawn, then stopped dead when they saw my wife already in full uniform, standing tall with her badge raised. "About time," she said coolly. "You'll want to hear what this woman just tried to pull."
The officer's eyes darted from my wife's badge to Karen, who was now trembling so hard she could barely stand. One officer stepped forward, frowning. "Ma'am, did you attempt to file a false emergency call?" Karen shook her head violently. "No! No! She's lying! I was just trying to protect the neighborhood!" My wife pressed the body cam button again and Karen's own voice filled the room. "Yes, I've caught an intruder living illegally. Send officers right now!" The playback echoed every lie she had told, word for word. The officers exchanged looks, their patience gone. "That's impersonating law enforcement and filing a false report," one of them said sharply. Karen's mouth opened, but no words came. The two fake enforcers tried to slip out, but real cops blocked their path, slapping cuffs on them instantly. Karen staggered back, cornered now, her empire of fake power crumbling before her eyes. Karen's scream cracked through the room as the cuffs clicked around her wrists. "You can't do this to me! I own this community!" The lead officer shook his head. "No, ma'am, you just trespassed, impersonated authority, and endangered a homeowner. You don't own anything here." My wife stepped closer, her voice calm but sharp as a blade. "You wanted cops? Well, now you've got the real ones." Karen's knees buckled as they led her out to the flashing patrol cars, her protest fading into the night. I finally let out the breath I'd been holding, the weight of weeks of harassment lifting off my shoulders. My wife unclipped her body cam, handed it to the officer and said, "This is all the proof you'll need." He nodded with respect. As the cruisers pulled away, she turned to me and smiled faintly. "They thought we were the weak ones," she whispered, sliding her hand into mine. "But this is our home, and nobody takes that from us."